Carbon project, and we're continuing from where we left it. I'll explain a few things that have changed with regard to the work. So I've started working on the pre-visualization. Of course, the clients also made some changes. I've shared it. I'll share it with you just now so that we can be just clear what we're talking about. But it's on the drive, so you can always download it from the drive. I need you to do that and then identify your character and then start tracing. There are two things to be clear about when you're tracing. One is consistency of your character. You have your character model, and then you have the tracing that you're doing that will animate your character, and you're using the pre-visualization as an exact guide. Okay, so that gives us a meeting point. The client has commented on the pre-visualization, made their changes, but they've not made changes to the character movement, which means we can go ahead with that. I'm working on the rest of the pre-visualization. I'll get the client's approval, and then we come back again. I'm going to add a few more pictures the client has sent us, having watched the pre-visualization, to get the ornaments of the characters correct. I mean, the pictures really have ornaments, but that's to add to your character, not to subtract or change your character unless you want to. But what you decide you're going to change, you should provide the character model for the client to see and approve. We've already shared what we've shared, so they've seen that. Now we want to just add on the ornaments, not everything, because you have to work in a way that is efficient. And if you have too many ornaments, it's going to be a lot of details you're drawing and a lot of details you're coloring. So you can see what to adopt, what not to adopt, and use as your basis to draw time. You don't want to spend too much time on your work. You want to finish it within the timelines that we're setting. So 1 week to try and finish your tracing in terms of time. 1 week to finish, let's say, to clean it up and color it. Okay, and and once you do that, you're done, because we're drawing directly into harmony. So you draw to finish your character animation, and you go frame by frame according to the pre-visualization. And once you have those clean keyframes and in-between frames, once you have those clean drawings, all you need to come back and do is color. Okay. Once you're done with that, I'll assign you some scenes to build. We're a total of 4 of us, and we have a total of, let's say, I'd say it's about 60 scenes or 60 panels. The scenes are less. So, but you'll be given scenes. So it might turn out that you're doing about 15 scenes or 12 scenes, 12 to 15 scenes. That's what you'll end up doing. So you'll be given that, and when everyone has completed their scenes, you build them up into, you can say, assembled animations. Okay, now those scenes are the ones which are rendered out and taken into the editing bench and edited into now the animation sequence. So that's the flow. So your work ends with the built scenes that you're given. You have your independent drawings that you're doing, and then you need to compile them. But of course, you have to borrow from other people's drawings in order to complete your scene. So we all have to be timely so that we synchronize all the drawings to finish, let's say, within 2 weeks. If all the drawings are finished within 2 weeks, that's good. And then we have our scenes and we build them up so that we can render them and provide them for purpose of editing. So that's the flow. So your job is drawing, coloring, building scenes. All right. Now, in between, the pre-visualization doesn't have lip syncing. So when you're drawing, you can use the movement reference and the proportions and the angle, camera shot. The camera shot is very important because we have several characters on a scene, so you have to maintain the angle. It's very important. So the pre-visualization gives you a sense of the character proportions, the character framing, and also the character movement. So those 3 things you get from the pre-visualization. So it saves you a lot because you don't have to study the movement, analyze it, and then reproduce it. You don't have to do that. but also the proportion and also the, you could say, the shot. The shot is also central. So you get that from that. What you add on is not only the drawing or tracing, if you like, but the wardrobe. The wardrobe must be consistently applied. The wardrobe in the pre-visualization is rough. It's not right. The right one is yours, the one in the character model. So you draw in your wardrobe, you draw in your your lip syncing. But when I say lip syncing, it's really about the expression of the face, because the lips move and the eyes move. So you have blinking, maybe frowning, maybe expressions of happiness or whatever it is, but the character is brought out in the face. So when you're drawing and you see what your character is saying and doing, you bring out that consistently within the drawing. So that lip syncing is you. So you bring in the lip syncing, you bring in the wardrobe, which is the clothes and the ornaments, and then you bring in you bring in the final style. The final style is the one we've agreed on. It's just the line drawing that you're doing. So you bring in that line drawing that you're doing so that we have that consistency. You're drawing with a stylus pen. So just you draw something. We can agree. Thickness of the pen we just agree on, but it's similar to what you had drawn in the character models. And the color scheme, it's you who decides, but you use reference material so that your color scheme is not away from what Masais or Samburus or Boranas or Turkanas recognize as theirs. You have to be true to your character's tribe. That's very important. So the drawing, the lip syncing, and the wardrobe, that's yours. Okay? But you have 2 weeks to complete, and then 1 week of you could argue, you see, the first week is drawing, it may bleed into the second week. Then is coloring within the 2 weeks. And then comes scene building. So 3 weeks really of work. Once you're done with that, you're done. That's it. I've spoken to the clients about payment. So the payment, by next week when we meet, you should have done something, 1 week of work, and I will pay you based on that. Okay? But that will be 50%. So you get 50%. The balance of 50% is going to come after the 2 weeks are done. So you go, you finish the 2 weeks, you finish, we compile, we edit, we send to the client, you get feedback, you get paid. All right? So I'd say you'll get your first tranche next week on Thursday. The client is already processing it and sending it. But it's based on work that you've done, because client is paying for work done. They don't want to pay for future work that you're going to do. They want to pay for work done. So try to have your stuff done for at least 1 week, which can be evidence of why you're being paid. The next week, I'll make the payment. And then 50%. And then comes now the balance, which would be another week. So those are 2 weeks. We compile and edit, dubbing. So we do the dubbing, the editing, and maybe some visual effects, but that's not a big thing. So that's a week. So 3 weeks. And then the 4th week is the client reviewing and giving us feedback. So technically, it'll be 4 weeks later when you get the balance of pay. My assumption based on the reality is the client is going to make some changes. But I don't anticipate sweeping changes because of the protracted process we've gone through to try to get the story right and the visuals right. I think they'll be close to the final. So that gives you a sense of how your pay will come and how the work now will flow. So now we're in full-scale production because the client's now paying. We're also at the stage where we know exactly what we're doing. And I'll do a new schedule just to reflect what I've said. And it's for you to now go. The rest is because you're trained animators. You're trained. You can always ask questions, of course. But I'm now trusting in your judgment. The pre-visualization, remember, has some mistakes in it. It's not designed to be a final. It's a rough draft. So you might find that a character is moving and then suddenly there's a chink. Don't translate the chink. Smoothen out the chink. So if there's a chink and you can see, that's a mistake. That's a chink. You sort it out. I mean, as professionals, you'll be able to tell that this fluent movement has a chink here, it has a chink here, it has a shake here, and you can sort that out in your drawing. So sort out the chinks, sort out the errors that I didn't try to sort out in the pre-visualization, but you sort it out now in your drawing. So the guide is strong, but it has errors. You just sort out the errors as you're drawing. Okay, so that's the plan. If you have questions, feel free. I'll take any questions from you if you want to ask anything. I'll open it up to you. Go ahead. Feel free to ask anything. Don't mind.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Alfan.
No, it's Jake. It's Jake.
Oh, it's Jake. Sema. How are
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
I have a question. This is more on my part.
Yes.
The background character.
Your voice broke, but I think I heard you say the background characters. Yeah. Now, your background characters come up in, yeah, they come up in Act 2 and Act 3. So I haven't done or completed the pre-visualization for Act 2 and Act 3. However, I'm working on it now, and I believe that Act 2 should be done by Saturday, and Act 3 should be done by Monday. So when you see Act 2 and Act 3 pre-visualization, you'll see your character there. Okay?
Excuse. Could you please go again? My
Sure.
internet was
I'll say it again. So I heard you say that you're asking about your background characters. Now, your background characters will be in the pre-visualization for Act 2 and for Act 3. Okay? So, of course, the way the pre-visualization works is that once you have your Act 2, you underlay it in harmony. So it comes in as a layer, but it's underlaid. Now, you have another layer where you're drawing on top. And that drawing on top is tracing frame by frame what is underlaid. Okay? I'll talk more about that. It's technical, but that's the way it works. So if you go frame by frame based on what I will give you, you'll be able to get now the reference for your character. So the background characters will be animated, and they're animated in idle poses. They're animated breathing. They're animated, you could say, turning left or turning right. Those are the background characters. So the role of the background characters is to guide the audience to focus on the main character. So when the main character is doing or saying something, the background character may turn to look at them. But that's guiding the audience. So if the audience is looking at the background character, they'll be guided to look at the main character. Now, there are instances where a background character is swatting flies or doing a pose, you know, or laughing, stuff like that. It happens intermittently, but it's not critical, but it's just there to enhance the mood. Okay? But you'll see. All you have to do is to pick out your character and follow them in their expression. So you might find your character has two poses, and thereafter they're simply turning left, turning right, or breathing. Breathing is not the same as a still frame. Breathing is, for us to exaggerate, is something that you'll see someone's listening, but he's breathing with his body. His body is going up and down, but he's actually breathing. Even you can see from the way he's standing and posing. So you want to trace it and maintain the integrity of breathing. It has to look natural. You see, these northern guys, the guys from northern Kenya, they expect the characters to be a slice of life. In other words, a slice of their own lives. They would recognize themselves within it. You can exaggerate, but if you exaggerate too much, then it becomes fantasy. If it becomes fantasy, it's no longer a slice of life. And they take that differently. So what we're saying is we're at the boundary between, you can say, real life and fantasy. So we allow for some exaggeration, but we use exaggeration here to maybe make them laugh, maybe, or maybe make them um, more attentive because they're curious. So to arouse curiosity and things like those. We're not using it to emphasize points. If you exaggerate to emphasize a point, we might even miss the point because they will interpret that as being fantasy. And once it goes into fantasy land, it's open to interpretation. And we start to lose them at that point. So we're trying to be as realistic as possible and at the same time be different or unique to hold their attention. But you just have to follow the integrity of the movement because the movement, I've designed it in such a way that meets all these different pieces of information they give us. They give us a lot of information. So we have to bring it to this production. So we try to bring it, I've tried to bring it actually in the pre-visualization in a way that when they critique and analyze it, they'll see that we have taken care of the details that they want us to take care of. So if you stick to the integrity of that, then you're okay. But there is some creative leeway, and there's definitely in the facial expression and the lip syncing, the actual lip syncing. Yeah, so there's some creative leeway there. You can also add some nuance. It's okay. I would accept nuance, as long as you understand that we're trying to be realistic, but at the boundary of realism and fantasy, something like that. Yeah. The other thing that is key and central to this whole thing is consistency and continuity. So consistency is making sure that all the elements you put on your character are maintained throughout. That's consistency. Even your character's shape, it shouldn't seem to be shape shifting as the animation is going. It should appear like he's one character moving around. It should look like that, not like a shape shift. So that's consistency. Continuity is to do with blips and jerks, which the pre-visualization has. So it has problems with continuity, but you can sort those out, but don't introduce discontinuity. If the camera angle is changing, you'll detect that the camera angle is changing. So you want to maintain a continuous flow of that camera angle change. So these are professional technicalities, but as professionals, I think you should be able to detect and work it into your drawing in a convincing way. So you know, I'm not worried about it. I'm just telling you to be aware of it. But if you do that, you'll be fine. Okay. So the production timescale or timeline is 3 weeks from this moment, and if you hit that, then you're okay. I think you may have a week of corrections. I don't think they'll be extensive, so that you can say the full production timeline is 1 month. And once you're done, they're done. That will be it. And you'll be paid. So I'll pay you the 50% next week, and the balance at the end. Let's say 1 month later. But I think 1 month starting today, you get now your balance. But we'll talk so that I'll tell you the exact date when that time comes. All right. Yeah. So if you have questions, again, feel free. I'll play back to you the pre-visualization, and if you still have questions or you want to talk about something after even watching it, you can. I'll share my screen. I'm assuming you've seen it, but I'll just play it for the sake of having it within this lesson. I mean, within this meeting. This section, by the way, is too long, this opening section, but at least we have that as our footage. Nobody has to do this because we'll use the stuff that's in the pre-visualization. But it's too long right now, so we'll cut it back to fit within the duration of the production. I'm not sure if you can hear anything. Let me pause for a minute. I'll pause. And I may have to share from a different browser. This browser has issues. I'm just thinking loudly. Let me continue. I'll continue. And if you do not hear anything, let me know. If you do not hear anything. Okay?
As Moran's journey under the hot sun to a hill in faraway conservancy.
Did you hear that? Jake or Alfred?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, I'll continue.
In search of green pasture for their cattle, they engage in a heated debate.
Lekishun, there's no going back. Grazing on the hill in this conservancy is our next best hope.
I agree with you, my friend.
Our grazing land is depleted. Livestock won't survive without enough pasture.
Grazing has changed. Our fathers had many cows. The livestock used to graze over short distance, but now they move very long distances.
Back then, they used to make grazing decisions together, but now we do it individually.
Grass was abundant. Now it's scarce. So now we have to walk far to find it. Herders even choose to keep shots instead of cattle these days.
Why not? When you graze, you leave a lot of food behind you. We like to clean up behind you by eating the bits you drop and don't eat.
That can cause overgrazing. The leftovers we leave behind, like seeds, shoots, and roots, allow the grass to regrow.
Overgrazing leads to soil erosion and reduced food for our livestock in the future.
Then we need the right balance of cattle, sheep, and goats. If we are to graze sustainably, a good grazing plan is essential.
We can address that by allowing the land to rest and recover by grazing together and having a good coordinated grazing plan.
Your curiosity about our ancestral ways delights my heart.
Please guide us, Elder, on how you used to graze and manage our land before, as we journey in search of pasture.
Many things have changed from the past years. We had a lot of grass, water, and the livestock were healthy. Ignoring the land by letting our livestock eat in an uncontrolled manner has destroyed nature's balance.
Even as we decide how to graze on this pasture on the hill, we must remember the effects on the whole ecosystem.
Uncontrolled grazing spoils nature's balance, particularly the health of our rangeland that helps us sustain our livelihoods.
We need to practice sustainable grazing, but how do we achieve balance in the environment at the same time?
Loishorua can explain how animals and humans have always lived together, improving the environment through the carbon cycle.
Carbon is a normal part of air and everything we see and touch. However, there are things we do which can change the carbon from something good to something bad. When people do things like driving cars, burning charcoal, or causing soil erosion, they can change carbon from something good to something very bad. Fortunately, trees, plants, and grasses play a big role in cleaning the bad carbon in the air. They take in bad carbon from the air and use it to grow, making it safe before storing it in the soil as good carbon. If we allow more plants to grow, especially grass in northern Kenya, we can store even more carbon in the soil, which is beneficial. That is the Carbon Project. It supports the growth of more grass as a way to store carbon, which keeps our environment healthy.
The Moran's journey proceeds, guided by the elders' advice. Their intention is to agree with the conservancies on the hill on how to sustainably graze their herds.
Okay, so that just gives us a kind of guide. But let me just, I'm thinking, there are just some small comments just to tell you sometimes that when you're working on this, you need to be thinking as a storyteller and not at the same time as an animator. So you're telling stories using emotion. Let me
Is our next
see, for
best
example,
hope.
I agree with you, my friend.
you see
Our grazing land is deep.
these three characters, this guy in the middle here is called Lanyu, and this guy here is Lekishon. This guy behind here is Nkopiro. There's a map. You'll see the map on the website that I shared. It's a scene plan. But these guys are having a conversation. So they actually are looking at each other. So if you're working on the face, you want to make eye contact connection between your character and the others. And that problem is not so severe in some cases where you see the characters turning to face the guy. But they need to be looking like they're in the same scene, they recognize each other, and they're having a conversation. Yeah, these ones of the cows, I didn't animate the cows. But when you're animating the cows, if the cow is talking, the bull will be looking. Even the goat who is in front will be aware that someone is talking around them. So how you bring that out is important in making the scene look, making the characters look like they're in the scene. Okay, camera angles do change, so you just trace and you go with the integrity of the camera angle. But remember, your character is not still. These are animals are actually, they bring them to life. I didn't animate them, so you bring them to life. Okay, this is a serious part of you can say omission on the pre-visualization. Yeah, so here it's focused on Limo, the cow, but El Pole on the left here is looking at them also, even though in this still he's not doing that, but he's aware that this one is talking and they look at him. There's a bird up here. Whoever is animating the bird, the egret, needs to not make them a statue. It's just a pre-visualization, but that's where the location, it tells you the shape, tells you the position in the scene, animate them so that they are paying attention to what the cow is saying. You don't want them to be a distraction, but you want them to be interesting. This thing, if you make your character interesting, they'll be memorable. You'll be remembered for your character. That's part of your portfolio, you see. And the client will then also appreciate the production. We look like a performing team. This one's interesting. So here, there's a lot of shaking around this character here. This is Lucky Chop, but he shakes a lot. If I just play it for you now, you'll see he shakes.
Shoots and roots allow the grass to regrow.
Overgrazing leads to soil erosion and reduced food for our livestock in the future.
Then we need the right balance of cattle.
You see, he shakes like that. But he's trying to emphasize the point. So that shaking is not intended, but you can see how to regularize it. But you want to emphasize what he's saying. But this guy here, Lanyu, is not looking at him. He should, I think. And when you move to enhance the scene, if they were looking at each other, it helps to make it more convincing. And then this guy who comes up here, I think he's called Leramat. This one. Leramat is completely talking by himself. He should look towards them. I didn't just have time to do it, but you can keep some of his movement and expressions like so in terms of the face. Everything else is fine, you can face. But this one of the face, you might want to turn his head a little bit, be talking to these guys. So even though he has his hand movement and his pose, you can make him look at these guys. This guy enters the scene. Let them acknowledge his entry in their faces. This is Lanyu and Lekisho. This guy is entering the scene. Let them somehow in their faces acknowledge the guy is entering the scene. And then here they carry on, and you can see. So there's some interesting things. This guy in Kopiro behind has an attitude, and these guys are aware. So we're going to have sound effects to bring out this guy's attitude. Whoever is doing him, don't lose the attitude. He's adding some humor to it. So this is Damze, he's talking, and you move on. So here he's playing with his feet. He's doing something behind them, but making noise really. So they turn to face him, and then he stops, and he looks back. There's something going on, and then they look back again. Okay, so those are the small deviations to hold the attention of the audience. They'll create side stories out of the main story, which is fine. But it's the person who's handling in Kopiro here who will use the movement and the expression on the face to bring out what he's doing over there in a way that's convincing without distorting anything, just like human beings do. Okay? Yeah, there'll be more of that in the other scenes to come, but then we come to this. So whoever is handling these, the way we zoom in, enlarging, just keep drawing it that way, but build in your character so that your character, like the bird here, the egret, is doing what they want to do. Here, the car is not talking, actually. I don't think so. It's the bird. So you zoom into the bird, and then now you have that. Okay. The other characters who are moving on the side, keep them moving. Yeah, the movements. Just keep to the integrity of the movement. If you keep to the integrity of the movements, they've been approved by the client. So they're not going to say that the movement is an issue. If you move from the movement, you're introducing risk. The risk is that the client will say, I didn't approve it, or we want now that change to be corrected based on what we saw before and approved. But they can also say that, oh, so you can make changes at this point because you guys have made changes. Let's make another change. And they introduce now changes because you made a change. But if you stick to what's approved, then we're on track. Even when I say that, you do have some nuance. But I don't know, if you have some experience, you'll kind of know how far you can go with now altering an approved drawing or approved movement. It's approved, but you can introduce something, subtract something. It's slight, but it's significant in terms of telling the story. Okay? So still have some freedom to add and subtract when you feel you want to do that. But emphasize finishing. Don't get caught up in the artistic nature of the production, because if you do, you won't finish. Artists never finish. You have to be more design about it. You have a timeline. Whatever you can do within that timeline reasonably, you carry on and do so that you finish. And then the other jobs, you see, and we have to make this a profession that pays us. So we do something good within the time frame. It's not the best work, but it's good enough for us to sell. So when we sell, the client pays, and we move on to the next job. That's how I want you to think. That's a design thinking. I see someone trying to log in, but he's gone. Alfan has gone.
I'm present.
No, sorry, Alvan. It's Alvan who was trying to come. Oh, he's back, yeah. So welcome, Alvan. I'm doing a recording of this, so you'll be able to see the full thing. This is not the full thing. We're halfway through the meeting. All right. So if you yeah. So you'll decide how you want to work. Some of these things are interesting. Like there's an over-the-shoulder shot here. This guy's big, barely fitting in. I wish I'd put him in even more. But it's not necessary. You can decide how you want to treat that. But the over-the-shoulder shot is powerful. It gives a feeling of depth. There's something else which I wanted to touch on. Let me see if I remember. Yeah, all these people have sticks, without exception. The Morans, the elders, they all have sticks. I didn't give them sticks. You give them sticks. They all have a stick, and you just maintain the consistency of that stick. And, so it's up to you how you do it. But they all have sticks. There's none who don't have a stick. Okay? All right, so that's really the comment. Coming now to the visuals, I mean the motion graphics visuals, these ones. Yeah, they didn't comment on this, except to say that this is fine. There's a statement here about charcoal, but we don't have a visual of charcoal. So maybe we can think about that. But they said, yeah, so bad carbon, good carbon, this is okay. Now they want to see the animation. The fading to gray was not a bad idea because it just signifies things are really bad. The trees become grass. That's what they said. So that's okay. So you want to show this entering into the grass. And the rest, they're fine with it. They have not said anything against it. Now it's for you to do it. Now, these things are okay as roughs because they kind of show the concept. But now you want to design them in such a way that they're somehow continuous in that way. Okay, and once you achieve it, you're okay. So let's get into this animation of these motion graphics. The motion graphics for them are central to the delivery of the message. So the character animation helps to hold interest. It helps to make it have context. It's all nice because the target audience appreciates the target audience, appreciates the characters. But the client puts their messages in these motion graphics. So they want, when the interests are high, for these motion graphics to do its work and explain how the carbon cycle works. And the other motion graphics coming. So now they'll pay attention, a lot of attention to these. Okay? So next week, let's agree, we'll meet, and you should have a significant portion. Let's just say half of your work done. If you can get all your drawings done within 10 days. So by next week, at least you have Act 1 done. Maybe part of Act 2. I'll have given you Act 2 by Saturday. So if you have Act 1 and half of Act 2 done by next week, and then again by the end of the following Thursday, you have the rest of Act 2 and then Act 3 complete in terms of your motion, you're doing well. You see? Then the last week will have to be devoted to coloring and scene building. All right? That's how we can look at that. Now, the part which might be challenging, but it's not so difficult once you get going, is the lip syncing. Trying to now get your character to speak well. Don't make your character look like he has a problem with his eyes or your face is shape shifting. Yeah, maintain that consistency. Okay, that's the job. And if you succeed in that, then it's great because then you have a career. This kind of thing is not easy for people who don't understand the animation process. Not even easy for artists. But if you can make your character continuous, consistent, and at the same time communicate expression, and emotion, then you've got a career in this. All right. All right then. So that's the whole thing. The animals need to be animated. Wherever we have cows, even in this motion graphic, they need to be animated. So if you're doing cows in the motion graphic, you need an animation of cows. But it doesn't have to. These cows don't have. They're just cows chewing grass, doing what cows do. So it's not major animation. It's very standard animation. You can use any kind of reference, even if you have live footage. You can use that to help you with your cows. The cows are not, the drama is not in the cows. The drama is in the human beings. Same with the goat, by the way. Okay? If that's clear, then I'll leave you to get going with that. If you have questions, feel free on this one. If you have questions, you can go ahead and ask. Or you could not see what I was projecting. Okay. I'll project again, but if you have questions on this, just feel free. I thought it was projecting, but I see it's not. Yeah, so I was just going through this part of it, the motion graphics. And I was talking about earlier the different parts to it. Yeah, all these guys have sticks, but I had mentioned, I'm not sure if you saw this, so I just want to go over it again here, that this character, yeah, this is the part I was talking about, this Locopiro. These guys look at him. It's because he was doing something silly, but whatever he was doing is just a distraction. The main message being spoken by the Lerinka here, he's talking about it here. But here, I was mentioning that here, this guy, Ledermat, he talks to himself. He's not looking at these guys, but he should look at them. This guy should look at the others. And the others should look at him, actually, when he's talking. When the middle guy is talking, the others should look at him, even though in the pre-visualization, they're not. Okay, so try to get that on. Because if you make your characters if you put them in the scene so that they're all looking at each other, they've done so well, you see, because they're positively reinforcing each other. So when it's Leki Shaw talking, let Lanyu look at him. And when you see all three of them in the scene, like here, now it's Leramat on the left talking, let Leki Shaw and Lanyu look at him. You see? That way they positively reinforce one another, like that. There are still cows here. So whoever is doing cows and sheep, you just need a looping action of this cow walking towards us. And also the sheep, a looping action of the goat. And there's some sheep here. So the goat and the sheep walking. That's all. No drama. They should look convincing as sheep, and they should look like they're walking. Okay? So that's how it is. Yeah. So the rest of it is just straightforward. All the chinks and the nooks and crannies, anything that looks like it is distorting the motion like a chink, you sort it out. I'll stop presenting now. All right. Yeah, so Alban, the issues I had explained in summary are that we want to try, our production time is 3 weeks from now. So 2 weeks of drawing and making sure you lip sync. When I say lip sync, it's face sync. If you are the kind of animator that just animates only the mouth, everything else is statue, then you'll be replaced very fast. In fact, AI has come. So AI is going to replace animators that are drawing statues because AI can trace. It can. So if you don't trace, I mean, if you want to be relevant, then make sure that you express your character in the face. And when the mouth is saying something, it's reinforced positively by the eyes and the rest of the facial expression. Okay, so it's all about moving from emotional beat to emotional beat. If you're cognizant of that and you're bringing out those emotions and you understand how to do it without distortions or shape shifting, then you have something. You have something. It's not easy for AI to do that. So if you do it, you'll be fine. And not just AI, but you have animators and you have animators. Some animators keep things so basic that you just, it's just a statue, one image, and then the mouth does this all the time. It's not convincing. So if you do that, you start to kill yourself. So don't do it. Try to bring out something that looks convincing. If you watch cartoons, the good ones, you'll be able to see what I mean. All right, so we're using this as a guide. And if you know, I want to tell you, you see, we're not artists. We're in fact, we're not even designers per se, but we're more designers. We're actually animators. Animators in the production line are professionals that stick to a strong guide. We're technical like that. So we're telling the story, yeah, but we recognize the guide is strong, so we follow it. And then at the same time, we know how to deviate from it. But we try to keep with time, try to keep it on message, and of course, within budget. Because all this, you see, like now, the first payment is going to come next week. That's for 50%. It's going to come on Thursday. And I'd like us to meet. And then once we agree that you've done the work, then I can give you your 50%. So try to work towards that. Then a month from then, you should have finished the rest of it. The finishing is the scene building. They will give comments. That feedback may have changes. You do the corrections. But a month from that day, those corrections should be done. You get your balance. All right? And then I'll move you on to another job. So if you are working steadily, producing it well, then we can move like that, and we make a career out of it. Okay? All right, so that's what the summary is of what we met about today. If you have questions or anything you'd like to ask, feel free. All the stuff is on the website, so you can always get the stuff that you need there. If you have anything that you need outside that, you can let me know. Also, Act 2 will be ready by the end of Saturday. Act 3 will be ready by the end of Monday. So that's the flow. Okay, I'm talking of pre-visualizations. Yeah, I think that's it. In terms of the motion graphics, Jake, just make sure your motion graphics are also done. If they're done already, that's fine. I'll take them from the folder and I'll put them into the pre-visualization. Okay. All right. Do you have any questions as we close? The meeting's finished. That's all I wanted to tell you. And I wanted you to start so that I can do a schedule, which I'll share with the client. They're going to come and start asking me about it. So I want to do that schedule and then share with you. But if you can tell me your feedback or any questions, I'll take them now. I see Jake says my screen had frozen. Okay. All right. If there's no questions, then we'll end on that note. But feel free to start the work now based on how you know it. Okay. I'm going to share some extra images on the Samburu morans because the client gave me Samburu morans. They might give me more, but I'll share them as they come. But I have Samburu morans to help you with the ornaments. Not with the dress. Well, dressing you'll see from what they're doing. But and even the ornaments, don't overdo it because it's animation. You can't have so much. If you have so much, your work is going to it will multiply. But again, you don't want to have nothing or something that's near nothing. When you have something that's near nothing, the client will call you out. You want to have enough that the client feels this is sufficient. And for us, we feel this is doable. You see. But if you start going to the extremes, like very close to nothing or too much in terms of ornaments, again, you get lost. Also, you've got to understand that the Maasais or even the Samburus are the same. Even the Turkana, they have a side to them that speaks to tourists. And they do it purposefully. So a lot of images that you'll even find online of Maasais and Samburus and Turkana is all touristic. That's not how they are in their normal lives. It's like they're wearing their Sunday best in front of the tourists. That's not what this animation is about. It's meant for them to consume. So even though you may give them the ornaments, they're not trying to be decorative so that they look like they're speaking to tourists. If you do that, then you lose them. Then they'll start seeing your work as something that is meant for tourists, not for them. Okay, so having the ornaments is just a nice touch, but it's not the main show. Okay. All right, guys. So I'll end the meeting. I'll stop the recording. I'll put it up and share it and say thank you for coming.